We're back at it again. Welcome to another Patient Gamer review. Today the agenda is Injustice 2, the sequel to Injustice Gods Among Us. A huge amount of improvements have been made, but we're going to find out today, considering all the relevant categories, is Injustice 2 still worth picking up today? Let's get right into the video, gents. Now, like usual, we're going to break it down into the relevant categories: the gameplay, the story, the visuals, the world, the UI, everything else in between, and the most important value section that'll break down whether this is an intelligent gaming decision for you as a patient gamer. Let's get right into it, and today we're going to start off with the gameplay and the visuals. Now, there's a reason that I usually actually don't mix these two categories together, but I think it's important that I mention this as they're closely related, particularly in this experience. Injustice 2, visually and gameplay-wise, is a direct and strong improvement from its predecessor, Injustice Gods Among Us. Now, this is not an all-encompassing thing, because there are aspects that I still prefer in Injustice Gods Among Us and things that are definitely improved upon in Injustice 2. And if we're talking in the gameplay department, this is definitely not the case. It is a complete step up. The visuals look absolutely breathtaking. The jump between the Injustice Gods Among Us to the new generation Injustice 2, the difference is palpable. Injustice 2 is silky smooth, beautiful, fresh, exciting. The environments have been revamped. There are many of the environments that are reused here in Injustice 2, but they've been completely remade into this beautiful experience to cater to this great gameplay experience. If you've played the original Injustice, the gameplay is just about the same. Exactly the same. The combat is still solid. You can still interact with the things that are in the environment, but in this new Injustice, there are more things that you can interact with in the combat arenas. There's far more things to do, and it's honestly just more interesting, as you point out. As expected, this is a fighting game, and good thing they have indeed revamped all the ultimates. As you probably may have come across a couple of compilations or things like that over on YouTube, but they definitely have revamped them. They aren't reusing the same ultimate moves from the previous games. No, they're not lazy like Storm. Naruto Storm. But no, the ultimate attacks have been revamped. They're completely new, but it's understandable. Injustice has a smaller roster in comparison to games like Naruto, Ultimate Ninja Storm and things like that. So it makes sense that they took the due effort to change all of these things. Now, let's consider visuals once again. Every single character has gotten a character design change in Injustice 2, for the better or worse. My personal opinion, a lot of them are worse. It's understandable. Okay, the Injustice Gods Among Us had a much more cartoony type of art style. It's the characters didn't look like real people. In Injustice 2, they definitely went for a more realistic type of art style, where the characters do look like real people, and they definitely put a lot of effort into doing so. They look like real people. Superman and Batman, they've changed. You can see that, okay, these are actually real people, but that's the thing. This is a video game, but realism doesn't always result or mean higher quality. Sometimes going for a more cartoony style is more interesting and intriguing and just unique. Something that's more realistic, just because it's closer to the world that we actually live in, doesn't always mean that it's better. But that's small fry stuff. The character designs, in my opinion, aren't that great, but the character costume designs are absolutely phenomenal. This is definitely the pinnacle. They definitely pretty much changed every single costume to revamp it, and they all look amazing. Well done. Everything, the cutscenes are great. Everything is high fidelity. This is phenomenal presentation, and all credit definitely needs to be given to WB and NetherRealm Studios and everyone who was involved in developing this great title. They definitely went all out, and they were able to deliver a quite quality game. Now, as I've mentioned before, considering everything that is mentioned, Injustice 2 is definitely a step up in the gameplay and visuals department. But now it's time to switch on over to the story, the narrative, the reason we are even having this conflict in the first place. Or you could look at it from a different perspective and you could say the excuse that the game gives us to have all of these great characters fight each other and create an experience and a cool game. Now, in direct comparison, Injustice 2 narratively is a direct downgrade from Injustice Gods Among Us. Straight downgrade. There are a lot of interactions and fights that you will play in Injustice 2 that you will realize and feel that they're very forced. It's not a natural interaction with these characters, and you can feel it a number of times that these characters are genuinely just fighting for absolutely no reason. In a lot of these situations, the characters don't see reason, or a villain or bad guy will literally pop out of nowhere and pull up and want to fight you, and you're like, what? Why? Like, out of nowhere, what's going on? There's an instance when I felt this particularly during the Flash and the Green Lantern storyline. Out of nowhere, characters just continuously just started to pop out and just want to fight because we have beef and because they're this character's villains. Now we're fighting just because we're fighting. There's a lot of things going on, and Brainiac is attacking in this narrative. Out of all things, I would expect them to work together to defeat the common enemy, which is Brainiac, not to be fighting each other. And while it's cool to fight some of these villains, I would have definitely preferred they give us a much more reasonable reason for us to be fighting them. It just doesn't make sense at all. Fighting the Reverse Flash just because the Flash is coming out to make a difference? Captain Cold? Like, what's going on? Now, granted, some of these interactions do come up with there's some good dialogue throughout the entire experience, and I'd say the writing is generally good, especially in terms of dialogue. It feels authentic. These characters feel like their real counterparts. Well done to everybody involved, and rest in peace to Kevin Conroy. He delivered a great performance. I'll be honest though, he really doesn't put it off. He's not a good Bruce Wayne. Kevin Conroy is a great Batman, but he's not a good Bruce Wayne. And I'm not sure if I can perhaps put this onus on the writers or whatnot, but Bruce Wayne defo not, but Batman, phenomenal. The person who voice acted for Superman, phenomenal job. Everybody did a great job in terms of the voice acting and the dialogue, but the plot is definitely a step down, and it's not as strong as the content that was served to us in Injustice Gods Among Us, and that's understandable. They weren't planning to make a sequel. They planned to make a great game, and they put all the interesting and exciting content into that game. And we're honestly lucky to be even getting a sequel because the people enjoyed it and they kept it going. Now, of course, like many of these fighting games, there is a multiplayer component. And there are a whole lot of options that you can go into, a whole lot of things that you can interact there in the multiplayer component. And if you're somebody who's looking to find a match and you're wondering, am I still going to find a match and find some battles today? The answer is absolutely yes. As soon as I completed the campaign, I went into the multiplayer, tried to get into a match, and it actually didn't take me long at all. Like many other fighting games, unfortunately, you'll be subject to the peer-to-peer connection that brings a lot of its own issues on its own. But it is what it is. We do what we have to, and that's the situation that you'll have to deal with. If you're willing to deal with the multiple connection issues, be my guest. But it's pretty solid, and I had a pretty decent experience when I was playing through the multiplayer experience. Now, considering everything that we've spoken about today, it's a stronger gameplay and visual performance, but in terms of the narrative, it does falter. But while I do say it does falter, it doesn't falter that much. If I were to rate the narrative just solely alone, just considering the narrative experience, I would definitely rate Injustice Gods Among Us, the original one, probably an 8 out of 10 in terms of a narrative. A very strong and good narrative. Great stuff. Injustice 2, it's more so towards a 6.5 to a 7. It has its strong moments for sure, but if we're talking in the narrative experience alone, it doesn't hit as hard as you would want it to, and a lot of these instances and things definitely do feel forced at times, which makes you wrap your head around the situation, like why are they even fighting each other? This doesn't make sense, and that can be somewhat problematic. Now let's get on over to the value section where we'll discuss whether in terms of statistics, numerically, is this an intelligent, patient gamer decision for you? I'm going to go over to one of my tried and tested websites where I go over to gather some data and information to know whether the game that I'm going to procure is worth it in terms of everything involved. Let's head on over to how long to beat, where we'll calculate the amount of playtime on average that you'll be able to get from Injustice 2. Now, if you head on over to how long to beat, Injustice 2, if you focus primarily on the single player campaign, you'll get about 5.5 hours. If you interact with some of the side content that's available to you, you got 15.5 hours. Probably added some multiplayer action that you delve into as well. You have a good time. And if you're a completionist trying to get that oh so heavenly platinum trophy, you're going to have about 40 hours. Plenty of playtime. Now, if you're somebody who's only interested in the single player campaign, I would definitely recommend you pick this game up using one of the following subscriptions, whether it be Game Pass or PlayStation Plus. That's how I was able to enjoy this game, and I definitely recommend for you to go ahead and make that decision. But if you're somebody who prefers to purchase their games, these are the various options and prices that you have at your disposal. If you're over on PC, you can pick it up today on official stores for $9.99. And if you collect it via a key shop, you can get it for $3.58. Definitely not going to be breaking the bank in any sense. If we check over here on PlayStation, we head on over to PS Deals. You can get it for a pretty reasonable price if we're considering the Injustice 2 Legendary Edition. And this is the only one that I'll recommend you guys buy, as there are a number of characters and cool characters such as Darkseid, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and other characters that are involved in this package. And unfortunately, I don't know, but I really don't like this trend that fighting games do. If you don't have a character unlocked when you are in the character select screen, they leave a blank space, and if you go on over to it, there is a cash option there to buy. So every time you go ahead and you go for a battle, you are being reminded that you do not have the full experience, that you do not have the full roster at your disposal, which can be frustrating and can end up imploring you to go ahead and buy those characters. I don't want you guys to break the bank for such a foolish decision, especially for such an old game that came out in 2017. So I would recommend that you collect the Injustice 2 Legendary Edition. If you pick it up on a favorable sale, which I'd recommend that you do, you can buy it for 205 Rand. Definitely not going to be breaking the bank in any sense. A very affordable price, and I definitely recommend that you go ahead and pick this up when you can. Now let's head on over to the USA and see what deals you'll be able to get over there. Injustice 2, if you're over in the USA, you'll be able to get it for a pretty affordable price as well. If you look for a good and favorable sale, you can get it for $5.99. Definitely affordable, and you aren't going to be hurting the bank in any sense at all. So guys, those are my overall thoughts on Injustice 2. Definitely a more chilled and shorter review, as there definitely isn't too much to talk about in terms of this title. Definitely a shorter campaign, and it's a substantial improvement from its predecessor. If I was to give it a rating out of 10, I think I'd have to give it a solid, a bit tough, but I'll give it a 7. I think it deserves a 7. Injustice 2 is a good game, and you're going to have a good experience from that. It's not just slightly above average, it's a strong title, and I think you'll find probably some lot more enjoyment from it if you haven't played Injustice Gods Among Us, as I'm going in comparing it to its predecessor. So those are my thoughts, gents. Tell me your thoughts down there in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you going to pick up Injustice 2? Tell me your thoughts down there in the comments. Take it easy, gents.